I do have a Cowboy opinion.
Yeah.
Because it seems like everybody's saying the wind is blowing the Brian Schottenheimer way, and
Kill me.
a lot of opinions are just like a sigh and then a head shake and kill me. I'll hear that from different people, and then I'll hear just this and that about Brian Schottenheimer. I've heard nobody say this, but this is what I believe. This is a red herring. They're tossing this out there.
Okay.
Because
set the bar low.
Yeah, so they're going to end up hiring Kellen Moore.
Yeah.
And when Kellen Moore takes the job, had Brian Schottenheimer not been in the mix, we would have been like, the guy who you ousted because he couldn't get CeeDee Lamb the ball in San Francisco?
Yeah.
The guy who you thought Mike McCarthy would be a better, like, no creativity. He hasn't really gone to Philly and done anything wild. You know, they were doing the tush push before he got there. He hasn't invented anything. And does he look like a leader of men? He's not vocal. He's not Dan Campbell. Like, that's what you would have said 2 weeks ago. Now, if they hire Kellen Moore tomorrow, you'll be like, oh,
sigh of relief.
Yeah, God, a guy who has done something. He won 80 college football games. He knows Dak. He knows how things work here. He's called play, like, has Brian Schottenheimer called plays for the Cowboys? Never.
No.
The only thing going for him is his last name. Like, even his resume looks horrible. Wasn't he was he the quarterback coach or the OC for Jacksonville under Trevor Lawrence's first year? They were like 30th in the NFL in offense.
The numbers are not good.
Yeah.
Anywhere. You're kind of having to more. I think they've just been handcuffing Shoddy everywhere he's been, but once they give him the full reign,
yeah,
he's just going to go nuts.
Like, I can't imagine Brian Schottenheimer in front of the team giving that the Hard Knocks preseason speech, welcome, and here's how we're going to be, and here's what, think of the Dan Campbell bite in your kneecaps, but then just think of anybody who you've ever seen do that.
Or the Robert Saleh strange thing about the Eagles. He kind of lost his train of thought halfway through it, but Eagles fly high.
What was this?
When the Jets had the Hard Knocks, and he was given a first day speech.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that did fall flat.
Yeah. Maybe he'd be more like that. Whatever. Yeah. But I just can't see Micah Parsons being like, I'll run through a wall for this guy. Like, he might say, who is he?
No, and ultimately,
he's been here for 3 years.
Winning, sometimes that's where a coordinator comes in, right? Like, that's why it didn't matter that Mike McCarthy's not that rah-rah, because you had Dan Campbell, or you have position coaches that get you fired up. It's more just that I am still dismayed that they can hire anybody for any amount of money they want, and they end up on Brian Schottenheimer. That's crazy.
You think this is an overcorrect from Dion?
Is Dion totally out of the question?
Again, if you hired Dion right now, you'd be like, excellent.
Well,
it's not Brian Schottenheimer.
When McCarthy turned him down, it seemed like the next day it was Jerry's calling Dion, and people were getting really excited. But if you were to hire Kellen Moore after Dion, the rumors of Dion, then you would be disappointed.
Interesting. Yeah.
So maybe you got to come back a little bit. Interview.
Why don't you just hire a coach? Who cares about all this? It's the craziest thing.
Because you need talk. You need things happening. You need buzz.
Brian Schottenheimer is so missionary. Like, he just it's just a nice,
a lot of
scheduled eye contact.
You got your hair's so pretty tonight, babe.
He might be hole cutting sheet.
Getting his buddies to jump.
He just soaks.
He's a
Brian
soaker.
Schottenheimer. I don't think that's going to take off, but I do think he's getting hired now. I know a week ago we said something else, but they're having like a second long interview with him. Ed Werder said that the one interview they did with Kellen wasn't even that long. And I was not ever against Kellen Moore, by the way. I want him. He's like Barron for me. Whenever he takes over, I want everyone to know.
Well,
always on board, but this is not going well.
I don't believe it'll be Brian. Like, I just can't allow myself to believe that uninspiring of a hire could have, like, a guy who not one other NFL team, college team.
It's troubling.
I don't even know if a high school team would.
It's a bit much, but
seriously consider.
I know you're cooking.
Argyle
right
doesn't want him.
You're rolling. I was laughing looking at the Aaron Glenn to the Jets news, because apparently Aaron Glenn was going to interview with the Saints, and he never got on the plane. And part of the reason for that was that he told the ownership in New Orleans, hey, I'm not sure about your GM, Mickey Loomis, who's been there forever, like forever. This is the guy my brother worked for. And they were like, no, we don't think you should have control over that. So he was trying to make like a Shanahan play.
Okay.
And say like we need to hire our own GM, and then they said no. So
Just
he canceled
someone
the
I'm
interview and
on
took the Jets.
I'm on the same page with.
And
yeah.
something somewhat similar happened in Jacksonville, where the Bucks OC was going to interview with them, and then he backed out, and they correspondingly fired their GM.
Right. Well, wasn't that who were they interviewing the week prior?
I don't recall.
Was it the guy from the new Bears head coach?
Ben Johnson?
Was it Ben Johnson? Somebody they were interviewing somebody where I thought you're the one who told me that they had said.
Well, the owner had said, yeah, like if we get
we have
a
our
new
GM in
coach
place,
here,
but
yeah,
it's not cement.
That was weird.
And he was sitting next to him.
He was sitting at least on a Zoom call with him, and 10 days later they fired that guy.
Yeah, like why was?
But
if you were going to fire him, you probably should have done it.
I bring all that up to say that if anybody wanted to come here and said like, "Hey, I want to have a little more control," they're not even interviewing that guy.
Yeah.
So Aaron Glenn was never an option.
Fire station rumor, so it's probably wrong and dumb. But there's someone talking about Schottenheimer's a placeholder until Witten's ready to take it.
So this is a thing. This is a thing.
That's a thing. Okay.
Yeah, and he's going to be hired this time for something.
Yeah.
We just don't know what. And the weird part is Brian Schottenheimer's not that old. So like whenever they were, the idea apparently was that McCarthy would take their money, take a short deal, and they could shoehorn Witten onto him as like a coach in waiting. And McCarthy was like, no to all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so now they have Witten that they want to bring on, but they know they can't just make him the head coach. But it would work if they had like Mike Zimmer, who's 70. But if you hire a guy who's the same age as Jason Witten, or, you know, within a decade older, that's very awkward. That's a cucking right there, folks. That's what's happening to Schottenheimer, because it's a job that they'll give it to him, and he's not getting offers anywhere else, like you said. That is where we are.
It's
boring.
baffling.
Boring and baffling.
Yeah.
Still our year, though.
No.
Still are here.
Rebuilding. Dak's going to be sharp. He's rested.
I mean, if Washington can do it.
There we go.
They sold their team. They had to sell their team.
Are you fired up? Rob, are you still a fan of Washington? Rob grew up there.
What do you mean, still a fan? Like, what was he like? I'm only riding if Dan Snyder's here.
No, I don't know. Like, you
Ever since the name
moved
change,
here
since
a
it's not
million
the
years
same.
ago, and you know.
Yeah.
I just didn't know if you still.
Still a Redskins fan. Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I
Redskins.
are they allowed to say it?
Did you sign the petition?
Is that how it works? Like,
Yeah.
Oh, he
I
spends
can't say Commanders.
a
Can't
weekend
do
working
it.
with Glenn Beck, and he comes.
oh, I know.
Yeah.
Why is he wearing a headdress?
Rested and ready. No, I'm fired up.
You should be.
I got a great quarterback.
It is good.
Doesn't break things when he runs and things.
You better
Yeah.
I
watch
worry
out.
about him. I worry about him.
Yeah.
He's a small dude and he keeps throwing himself in the pile. But
You got to be pulling
He's
for
amazing.
Washington this weekend as a Cowboys fan, right?
yeah,
I think so.
I feel like it's a toss-up.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you actually think the Eagles have a chance, and you don't want the Eagles. You can never root for the Eagles, and Washington's been so bad.
Yeah.
I would imagine that was different 30
20
years
years.
ago.
Yeah,
I
the
don't know,
hatred.
but then again, that's when they had Buddy Ryan and all that kind of stuff. That was
So
probably
maybe.
pretty awesome, too.
Bounties.
Or don't you want the guy that beat you to beat everybody? That kind of line of thinking?
Well,
Yeah,
a
but
lot of
they-
people
they-
beat the
they
Cowboys.
both beat us.
Okay, all right. Bad year for that.
Yeah.
Like, so we're also rooting for the Ravens and
Yeah, the Saints.
Yeah.
They were still, Remember when the Saints rolled them?